Let me be perfectly clear and say what no major news network has the courage to broadcast right now: the Iraqi dinar has revalued, and the new rate is already active within the closed, high-level electronic systems of the global financial architecture. Done deal being shielded from the public eye, while the final pieces of this geopolitical chessboard are silently moved into place. This isn't a rumor or a hopeful prediction. This is the culmination of a covert financial operation orchestrated by the Central Bank of Iraq in direct coordination with international stakeholders who have decided that the time for secrecy outweighs the time for transparency, at least until they can control the narrative of the biggest monetary reset in modern history. Think about that for a moment. While you and I are waiting for a press conference or a flashing banner on a news website, the very foundations of Iraq's economy are being reprogrammed in the digital realm, a silent switch flipped that changes everything for anyone holding those IQD notes. The reason this is being kept under wraps is not due to some malicious conspiracy, but because of the sheer explosive volatility of the information. Announcing a revaluation of this magnitude to the world without first allowing the institutional and interbank systems to calibrate and secure their positions would trigger a financial tsunami that would make the previous currency crashes look like minor ripples in a pond. To truly grasp the monumental significance of this behind-the-scenes activity, you have to rewind the clock and understand the profound weight of the problem the dinar has represented for decades. A currency artificially suppressed and crushed by wars, sanctions, and catastrophic economic policies that left it as a symbol of a nation's suffering rather than a representation of its immense, untapped wealth. When a country possesses some of the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, yet its citizens struggle with the daily reality of a currency that requires carrying a stack of bills just to buy a simple meal, you have a fundamental disconnect, a fracture between inherent value and perceived value that creates unsustainable pressure within the entire global economic system. This pressure has been building like a tectonic plate, and the international community, particularly the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, have been applying relentless behind-the-scenes pressure on Baghdad for years, not out of altruism, but out of sheer necessity. A stable and economically viable Iraq is crucial for global oil market stability and for countering the influence of other regional powers. The previous exchange rate, hovering around 1,320 dinars to a single US dollar, was not just an economic indicator, it was a straitjacket, a relic of a Chapter V sanctions era that functionally prevented Iraq from engaging in normalized international trade, accessing global capital markets on favorable terms, and attracting the serious long-term foreign investment required to rebuild its shattered infrastructure and diversify its economy away from a crippling dependence on crude oil exports. The cost of maintaining this crippled currency has been staggering, draining the central bank's foreign currency reserves as it constantly intervened to prop up the dinar, creating a black market for dollars that fueled corruption and illicit finance, and acting as a permanent brake on the purchasing power of every single Iraqi citizen, stifling entrepreneurship and crushing the emergence of a vibrant consumer-driven middle class. This was a dead-end road, and the financial architects in the CBI and their advisors in Washington and London knew it. The journey to delete the zeros from the currency and initiate a managed float or a significantly higher fixed rate wasn't just an economic reform, it was an act of national survival, a mandatory surgical procedure to remove a cancerous growth from the body of the Iraqi economy. The evidence for this transition being already in motion isn't found in public announcements, but in the dry, technical language of the 2025 federal budget law, which contained clauses that only make logical sense if a new, substantially higher exchange rate is already the operational baseline for future government planning and revenue projections. Telltale sign that the insiders are already operating in the new financial reality they haven't yet bestowed upon the public. This silent period, this calm before the storm, is the most critical phase where the privileged few, the major international banks, the sovereign wealth funds, the government contractors, are positioning themselves. And the information you are receiving right now is your only chance to understand that the starting pistol for the most significant wealth transfer of our lifetimes has already fired. And the race is already on, even if you can't yet hear the cheers from the grandstands. So how does a nation secretly revalue its currency without causing immediate global pandemonium? The mechanism is a masterpiece of financial engineering and deliberate, controlled information flow, beginning deep within the fortified digital vaults of the Central Bank of Iraq's internal electronic platforms, where the official rate for government and interbank transactions has already been recalibrated to reflect the new economic reality, a change that is as simple as updating a number in a database, but carries the seismic force of a nuclear detonation in the world of global finance. This isn't about printing new physical notes and distributing them in a public spectacle. This is about the silent, instantaneous update of the core programming that governs multi-billion-dollar international oil contracts, sovereign debt repayments, and the very ledger that determines the nation's balance sheet. All while the public-facing retail exchange rate you see on Google or at your local currency exchange remains artificially frozen in the old paradigm, a deliberate smokescreen to prevent a catastrophic and uncontrollable bank run or a speculative frenzy that would destabilize the entire process before the infrastructure could handle it. The key to understanding this phase is the critical distinction between the Iraqi interbank rate and the street rate. The interbank rate is the true institutional value of the dinar used for transactions between the CBI commercial banks and the government, and it is on this clandestine battlefield that the real revaluation has already been deployed, allowing the state to pay down dollar-denominated debts using the new, more favorable valuation, effectively reducing the crushing weight of its foreign obligations overnight without a single public announcement. Meanwhile, the process of deleting the zeros is not merely a cosmetic change to make the currency easier to carry in a wallet. It is the fundamental technical backbone of the entire RV event, a mandatory systems upgrade that strips away the legacy code of a hyperinflated currency, collapsing the old 25,000 dinar note into a new, single dinar note that is worth the same but represents a stable, internationally respected unit of account, and the logistical nightmare of swapping the physical currency is precisely why the digital interbank rate had to lead the public rollout by a significant margin. The Central Bank of Iraq has been preparing for this exact moment for years, building up its foreign currency reserves, implementing stringent anti-money laundering protocols to satisfy the international banking community, and most importantly, executing a series of seemingly minor technical adjustments to its international payment systems like the central bank digital currency platform that are, in reality, the essential plumbing required to handle the tsunami of recalculated value that will flow through them the moment the public gate is opened. The most compelling piece of evidence for this silent transition lies in the cold, hard text of Iraq's own financial legislation, specifically the 2025 federal budget, where analysts with the right lens can see the cryptic clues, projected revenues in dinars that, when converted back to dollars at the old rate, will be mathematically absurd and financially impossible, but when calculated using a new, significantly higher internal rate, suddenly produce coherent, balanced, and sustainable national financial projections, a digital footprint left by the financial architects who are already living in the future economy. This behind-the-scenes maneuvering allows the government to prepay international contractors at the new rate for critical infrastructure projects, from power plants to telecommunications networks, effectively unlocking billions in previously frozen capital and accelerating the rebuild of the nation with a financial tool that the public hasn't even been officially handed yet. Furthermore, the timing of this Covert rollout is intricately linked to the global shift away from the US dollar for international trade, particularly in oil as a revalued, stable dinar gives Iraq the sovereign monetary power to begin invoicing its oil in dinars or a basket of currencies, breaking a decades-long dependency on the petrodollar system and realigning its economic fortunes more closely with Eastern powers like China, who have been eagerly awaiting a stable partner in the region with a credible currency. Every single one of these technical steps, from the interbank rate adjustment and the zeros deletion process to the budgetary sleight of hand, serves one ultimate purpose: create an irreversible momentum, a point of no return where the new valuation is so deeply embedded within the global financial system's core programming that by the time the public announcement is made, it is merely a formality, confirmation of a financial fait accompli that the insiders have already capitalized on, leaving the retail investor and the average citizen simply reacting to a new reality that was created for them, not by them. The silence from Baghdad and the controlled, dismissive statements from Western financial institutions are not a sign that nothing is happening. They are the strongest possible confirmation that everything is happening, because in the world of high finance, the most transformative events always occur in the quietest rooms, and the fact that you are not hearing the explosion does not mean the bomb has not already been detonated deep within the system. Now we arrive at the moment of truth, the personal and global impact of this financial earthquake that is currently rumbling beneath our feet. And the first thing you must understand is that the ripple effects will be felt far beyond the borders of Iraq, fundamentally reshaping the global economic order and triggering a cascade of events that will create both unimaginable winners and devastating losers in the new financial landscape that emerges from the ashes of the old system. For the global oil markets, a revalued dinar is nothing short of a revolution, as it provides Iraq with the monetary sovereignty to potentially break from the petrodollar system and begin trading its crude oil for dinars or a basket of currencies, including the Chinese yuan and the euro, a single decision that could drain billions of dollars of demand from the U.S. Treasury market and accelerate the world's shift towards a multi-currency reserve system, diminishing American financial hegemony and elevating the economic standing of every nation that has chafed under the dollar's dominance. This isn't just about currency speculation. This is about a monumental shift in geopolitical power, where a nation once brought to its knees by war and sanctions suddenly possesses a strong currency that allows it to rebuild on its own terms, finance its own military, and negotiate from a position of strength, effectively redrawing the political map of the Middle East and creating a new, powerful pole independent of both Washington and Tehran's direct influence. But let's bring this down from the global scale to the most important person in this entire equation, you, the individual who took a leap of faith and positioned yourself ahead of this historic event, because the moment this revaluation is publicly announced, your life, your financial standing, and your future possibilities will be catapulted into a realm that most people only ever dream of, granting you a level of financial freedom and optionality that is simply not available to the vast majority of the population who are trapped in the traditional systems of wealth generation. Imagine the ability to wipe out every single debt, mortgages, car loans, student loans, credit cards, in a single day, liberating yourself from the soul-crushing weight of monthly payments and interest that have held you back from pursuing your true passions and purpose in life. Envision having the capital not just to live comfortably, but to become a genuine force for good in your community, funding local businesses, creating scholarships, supporting charities, and building a legacy of positive change that will outlive you, transforming your sudden wealth into a tool for permanent, meaningful impact rather than just a temporary lifestyle upgrade. However, and this is the most critical warning you will ever receive, this newfound power comes with an equally immense responsibility and a host of predatory dangers that have already been set in motion to separate you from your wealth the moment it becomes active, because the same financial institutions and government agencies that have remained silent during this Covert revaluation will be the first to erect barriers around your money once it hits your account. You will be immediately targeted by a tsunami of sophisticated scammers, unscrupulous financial advisors, long-lost relatives, and even your own bank, which may initially freeze your accounts or subject you to intense, intimidating questioning under the guise of Know Your Customer, and anti-money laundering protocols that are designed to scrutinize and control sudden, large-scale capital movements from individuals outside the traditional power structure. This is why your next move, right now, before the public announcement is made, is the single most important decision of your entire financial life. You must have a concrete, actionable plan that goes far beyond simply knowing an exchange location. A plan that includes establishing immediate relationships with a proven, reputable asset protection attorney and a fee-only fiduciary financial advisor who specializes in windfall management and can shield you from the legal and fiscal predators who are already lying in wait for you. The time for passive waiting is over. The information has been delivered to you, the pathway has been illuminated, and the responsibility for your future now rests squarely on your shoulders. Do not be the person who had the foresight to acquire the asset but lacked the wisdom to protect the outcome. Your mission, starting this very second, is to use the remaining quiet before the storm to get your legal and financial house in absolute order. So when the world finally wakes up to the news that will dominate every headline, you are not reacting in a state of panic and confusion, but executing a flawless, premeditated strategy with the calm precision of someone who saw the future and prepared for it. The question is no longer if this will happen. The question is, will you be ready when it does? The silence is about to break. Make sure you are unbreakable when it does.